Hey everyone, I want to talk all about how long does it take to recover from OCD and anxiety-based disorders. I want to talk about how long it took me to where I am today, what I was like when I first came into OCD and anxiety recovery, which was about 3 years ago. I've been working on recovery. May 1st of this year will be 3 years since I put my video games away. And although I don't tell people to track the recovery process, and I don't track my recovery in that manner, that was the day I decided, I have to put my video games away if I actually want to see some progress. So before I go any further, please subscribe, hit that like button, comment down below. What I've been doing is I've been taking all the requests that people have been asking in the comments and taking that, and I've been putting on a couple different pieces of paper next to my desk and then systematically making those videos. So everything you want to see, I will do. I did a video talking about unconditional self-acceptance, which I thought was really, really good, and that should be on the channel sometime today. But I set some really high goals for myself for content over the next 12 months, and I will be producing a lot of YouTube videos. I mean, I produced a lot last year, but I'm going to produce probably a lot more. So anything you want to see, and I can cover those, and once the weather gets a little bit better, I'll do some more videos, and I'll show you the mountains when I'm done with this, because I'm sitting in the military base waiting to see a friend of mine. So how long does it actually take to recover from OCD? Let's keep it to OCD, but this can apply to any of the anxiety-based disorder, GAD, panic disorder, anything like that. And the answer is there's no timeline. Now let's actually dispel a couple myths before we go into my journey or what I see in my recommendations. So I see a lot of people say stuff like, I know for a fact that 90% of people are recovered from OCD in 6 months. I know for a fact that if you're not seeing progress in 12 months, you're doing something wrong. I know for a fact that it takes a week to recover. Now, look, there are cases where people come in where they have very mild OCD, but those aren't the cases that are coming into OCD recovery. The people that we're working with are the most severe OCD cases on the planet, the most severe. People don't eat or drink type compulsions, people who are in and out of mental hospitals, people who have been on numerous amounts of medication and feel like there's no hope, people who don't leave their homes, people who have all these other compulsions present where their life is completely limited to their OCD. We don't really work with a lot of mediocre and mild OCD cases. We see those. They come in, ask for some advice, go on their way. They kind of just move with thoughts and some little exposures, but that's not what we see. We're looking at, if you look at all the moderators, such as me, Momin, Jade, Phil, Rob, Paul Little, these are all multi-year recovery journeys to really get to a much better place. It took me multiple years to get to a place to where I was very, very accepting of my worst case scenario with sensory motor OCD. And body dysmorphia took me a really long time too. And what happens is when you're going through OCD and anxiety recovery, if you recover from a theme, it's very easy to think, well, I already went through this one theme. Why do I have to go through another type of theme? And that's when the fear kind of comes in. You kind of down yourself and you get angry at the recovery process. But this is something that we all have to deal with. So those are the first most important myths I wanted to dispel, because it is important to break those down. If you're listening to someone who's telling you, those things that I know for a fact everyone recovers in XYZ day, months, years. I know for a fact if you're not seeing progress, these are very black and white statements, and there's something to be watched out for, because they don't capture the entire spectrum of OCD and anxiety recovery, especially a severe or moderately above the basic OCD case where, it's very light in the background. But like I said, that's not the type of people we're working with. We're working with really, really severe sufferers. So, how long did it take for me? Let's go into the second part of the video. How long did it take me specifically? And again, I'm only doing this for the video. I never give deadlines or timelines to recover from sensory motor OCD. 3 years. 3 years. Now, that doesn't mean I was chronically suffering for 3 years. It was very much stuck 24/7 in the beginning, up and down for a while, really like some really high peaks, and then like kind of just mellow for a while until I eventually had no fear cycle left. If you notice what I say, I don't base anything I say off symptoms. Now, no chronic anxiety, no chronic shame, no chronic guilt. Intrusive thoughts have lost their intrusiveness. The person is not really that angry anymore. It's not you become emotionless. You're just much more stoic. I always talk about the pendulum swing. People always make fun of me when I do this in the WhatsApp groups to take photos. But Think about the average person is pendulum swinging like this, or an OCD sufferer, they still experience all emotions. The reason why OCD and anxiety recovery seems to be so difficult, especially when you're beginning, not just the realness of the disorder, which we all know it feels as real as it can get, is because of the lack of awareness about the Ellis principles and the application of Stoicism. Many people who say they are Stoic, in my opinion, don't really practice Stoicism all that well. And even I catch myself at times because I'm a human being, and it's not easy to practice all the time and make it a personal philosophy where you're operating by it 24/7. We're not machines. We're human beings, so we make mistakes. But a lot of the people who preach or talk about Stoicism, for an example, or OCD recovery, are yelling or screaming, and they're having severe ups and downs. And I'm not putting anyone down with this. I'm just trying to explain that those extreme mood swings that you're experiencing aren't really encapsulating all of the actual experiences that someone will experience when they come to OCD and anxiety recovery. Now, in sensory motor recovery where I am, there's no fear cycle left at all. It's not that I don't notice my sensations at all, because that's a big thing too. When do I never notice my sensations again? Well, that's not what OCD and anxiety recovery is. The fear cycle is gone when it comes to sensory motor OCD. And if you're watching this for the first time, sensory motor OCD is the awareness of your breathing, swallowing, salivation, heartbeat, and blinking. I call them the big five, or any of your other bodily function, your pulse, your bladder sensations, anything like that, other organ structures, the tongue position, the bridge of your nose, anything like that. Hyper-awareness of body parts, etc. So it took me a long time. And then what do I usually see? This is a question I get asked a lot, especially when people are coming in for coaching calls with me. What do I usually see on the first few calls? The first couple of calls are can be overwhelming because you're really stuck and you don't understand, and it's totally fine because I didn't understand either. You're not going to be able to grasp acceptance in all the exposures necessary and how to move with time and patience in 2, 3, 4, 5 calls. So another, and I should have, put this in the myth section because it is important. What you'll see is, and you'll see it a lot, you'll see people say something along the lines of, how will they say it word for word? They'll say, do this 5 to 10 CBT course and be recovered from OCD. It's not that simplistic. Again, some people, yes. But most people know, not the people that I say are coming in. So if you feel like you're one of those people, you've tried a bunch of stuff, there's more than likely a couple things that's going on. Number one, you haven't been explained OCD and anxiety-based disorders correctly. Number two, you're still doing compulsions and avoidance behaviors. Number three, you're not actually moving with unconditional self-life, other acceptance. Number four, you're actually forcing those tools and you're not moving in a more natural perspective where you're letting it come to you innately. I always use the Taoism analogy where you're standing in the river and most people are staying in the river trying to stop the river, but instead you want to stand in the river and let your arms go and have the water hit you up to your chest and waist, and it's really important to use that. That's not the entire OCD and recovery journey, but it is a large part of it. But the main reason for all of this is the lack of changing your beliefs. So for me, the fear of being stuck with sensory motor for the rest of my life, the fear of being stuck with anxiety for the rest of my life, the fear of being fat and overweight and not having muscle, the fear of and losing muscle with that as well, the fear of going broke in work, the fear of, those are really the big ones for me. The fear of not being able to get my anger under control. So it was like a secondary and tertiary problem to the main belief. So this is something that we see a lot too. We'll have a primary belief, so the fear of being stuck forever. Then the second one is you still, you're demanding that you should be recovered now. So fear, you're demanding you should be recovered now. Secondary belief. Tertiary belief is destroying yourself in a verbiage sentence, style where you're like, I'm an idiot, I'm berating myself, I should know better. And it kind of like goes over and over and over again, and you just have this like snowball effect of irrational beliefs. It doesn't do you any good. I think it's really important, if you're looking at people, and I'll end it with this because I think it's a good thing, how do you look for people who you think have a good grasp on the knowledge of OCD and anxiety recovery? Well, having OCD and anxiety and coming out the other side is a huge factor, one of the most important factors, because it's very hard to understand the intricate details of OCD and anxiety without actually having it. Not saying that if you don't have it, you can't understand it. It's just much more difficult. It's like someone who doesn't have any money saying they know what it's like to be worth $100 million. They don't know what it's like to be worth $100 million. It's like a kid being like, I know what it's like to have children when they don't have children. It's like a father saying they know what it's like to be a mother and give birth. It's all these like different examples like that. And those are just like blanket examples I'm saying from just a perspective. And again, it has nothing to do with not understanding and stuff like that. These are just all principles that I think are important to look at. Number two, does the person actually work with OCD and anxiety recovery a lot, primarily OCD? Because OCD is such an intricate disorder, it will need to be usually worked with only and all the time. If you're going to someone that, they're doing a bunch of different things, there's nothing wrong with that. They can give some basic advice, maybe on exposures and stuff like that, and moving with thoughts. But the complex cases, which is a lot of the serious ones, they'll really need to be working with that all day long, a lot, because it's that intricate. And then look at the way their tone is. How are they explaining things? Are they yelling? Are they demeaning people? Are they putting people down? I disagree with many things, but I no longer need to yell or put people down anymore. I still make jokes because, my New Jersey comes out a little bit. It's how we roll. And are they angry? This is something I look at a lot. How is their anger? Do they yell? Do they scream? Are they, really getting emotionally upset? You rarely, as Rob says, I rarely meet a rational person who gets very angry. I think it's so important to cover that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is another great video I wanted to do, about how long it usually takes to recover. And let's end the video of where I am today. I think it's always nice to be transparent about, the realities of the journey. So I became latched with chronic OCD in June of 2019. I started with tinnitus and went to sensory motor. And so we're coming up on about 4 years since everything has been totally going on. I would say that I am 95% better than where I was when I first started. I've completely recovered from sensory motor OCD. I have occasional things that can tag me here and there in my life, usually my work and other stuff. That's something that people see in end stage games. But overall, I am in a astronomically better place than I was. And it's very important to realize that, because even in very, very late stages of the recovery process, although you might not have chronic anxiety, chronic shame, and chronic guilt, if you have a mishap right here and there's no awareness, it's like an alcoholic who's been sober for 10 years and lets their tools go to the side. That can be a dangerous outcome. You need to be aware of that. And then as the years go by and you become more rational and you practice more things and more life scenarios pop up and you lose family members and, as life goes on and maybe you get fired from your job because the economy's bad and life gives you all these different exposures and you use that to practice unconditional self-life, other acceptance, you get yourself in a really, really, really good spot. You become very rational and you don't need to do any forced exposures, and acceptance becomes a primary way that you see the world, and eventually you hit OCD and anxiety recovery. But, it usually takes a couple good years to get yourself to a pretty good spot, and I think that's important to cover. Thank you so much for watching. Again, if you're interested in our coaching and webinar services, please email us at info@ocdrecovery.com. As I always say, we have webinars every Tuesday, 8:30 p.m. UK time, unless we have a part 1, part 2, where we do Tuesdays and Fridays. And again, if you have any questions, please put them down below. I'm making a big list. I'm doing a lot of shout outs and videos. I'm going to get a lot of people involved. I think it's going to be a really good year. And I'm going to make as much content as I can, because I think it's very important to spread correct information on OCD and anxiety recovery, share my personal experiences, and share the things I see when I work with people all over the world. And, everyone thinks they're different, but no one's different. There's lots of hope, and, you can get there too. Oh yeah, let's show the mountains real quick. Okay. I put my glasses on because I had this held up by my water bottle. I'm out here in the snow, which is always fun. So, whoa, that's bright. So there's the mountains in the background right there. So where I am right now, just to give you a little bit of a background, this whole ridge right here is part of the Air Force Academy. So I remember when I moved here and I'm like, I'm going to hike some of these. And people are like, no, you can't hike those. And I was like, why? They're like, no, you don't understand. It's part of the military. So there's different, obviously, I'm not in tennis, but structures up there. Those are all probably part of the military base in general. But this is a really big base. This is the United States Air Force Academy. This is really cool. The president comes here on the graduation ceremonies and they do the 5 jets overhead. It's just a really cool place to be. The guy's house who I'm going to right now is my friend who I talk about who's disabled. And I think that, he's really good to talk to for perspective. When you look at his life, he's confined to a chair. He gets 1 shower a week. We always joke. He says something to me. He'll say today I decided what was more important. Was it more important to eat food or go to the bathroom? Because it takes that much effort for him to get up and move around. And although that's sad, and to see that type of mindset on someone like that is really, really cool. So, thank you again so much for watching, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Have a good one, everyone.